Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source of superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined again by Sean Keenan.
Heidi would like to know where you got your bracelets and your belt, Spider-Man.
He's fashionable, I tell you. And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear. Sorry, I forgot my allergy pills.
Oh, for those of you who have not seen this week's movie, that's good. That's what we call a tie-in, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. There's a lot of... We got a very...
A tie-in that doesn't really pay off.
Not at all. Not at all. You leave something there. Well, it pays off in the way that they kind of reference it, but where does it really go at the end of the day? We'll try to figure it out.
Doesn't it feel like to you guys that it's something where like the stunt guy sneezed a couple of times and they're like, screw it, we gotta
throw
keep
it
that
in.
take.
Throw it in.
We'll say he's got allergies.
I think they were setting up something big for the sequel when he fights Ragweed Man.
Good point. Well, if you haven't put it together, seen our Facebook page, today we are reviewing Spider-Man, the television movie. There's a lot of weird things how this sort of kind of was.
Let's just call it a TV movie because that's kind of what it was.
It's true. It was on television, and it's an hour and a half long, so that's all you need to know. And it's from 1977, so keep that in mind when thinking about this, guys, is that this movie came out the same year as Star Wars, and the special effects are just as good.
Oh, man, and if you could only see one movie that year, make sure it's not this one.
Make sure you stay home and watch Spider-Man instead.
America was 201 years old in 1977, and this is the best Spider-Man they could do.
It's like Uncle Sam's rolling over in his grave just going, I can't believe this is what they gave me. What a jip. But yeah, man, we're going to be talking about that, and what we also like to talk about on this show is people that take time and go down to the iTunes, give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger. And this one is from a listener, is entitled Surprised. It is from Razor1138, and it reads as follows. I like the different takes of all three hosts. I like that they do not always agree. There's a lot of good information on backstories from comic books and other comic book movies and such. The jokes are funny most of the time. That helps. The show has a very good balance of views. Thank you for reviewing some movies that I will never see or never want to see, i.e. The Crow or anything like that. Keep up the good work, and I'm interested in the Dr. Giggly Bears or whatever it is thing the prickly pear keeps talking about.
Dr. Giggles.
Dr. Giggles. We'll pull that up at some point.
I got a blind spot for that movie. I know nothing about it.
Well, you'll probably for the better at that point, I says. But here's the thing, guys. That's amazing that that's a 5-star review, and I'll tell you why. That is my brother, and my brother doesn't like me. The film.
To be fair, though, Adam, it's just because he knows you.
It's absolutely true. It's one of these things. For those who don't know, when you do like stand up, which I'd done for a little while, I would always kind of like you bounce jokes off of people, right? And I would always try to go to him and go, "What do you think about this?" And I'd give him a little bit, and he just like, God bless him, he would look at me and just go, "Look, I'm sure somebody finds it funny, but it's not I've listened to you my entire life. I'm over all of it." So when he says you're funny some of the times, he's pretty much mentioning me as being the one that's not funny. Believe you me. So
what kind of brother is he? Is he the kind where he's just completely different from you, or is it more like an alternative universe version of you?
It's very different. Very different when I met him.
It's slightly different, but it is weird because my brother is like one of the oddest ducks that there is out there. He's kind of a redneck good old boy who loves like hunting and fishing and all that kind of crap, but can still talk your ear off about some Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or whatever, you know. He's a weird dude, and that's what kind of makes him awesome is that it's just like he's just into all kind of weird stuff. But he likes all the crap.
He don't need you to like him.
No.
And unlike Adam, he has the South Carolina accent, which is why it's interesting to talk to both of them at the same time.
It is a little bit weird. My mother, though born in New York, still has like adopted more of a Southern accent than anyone else. But it is odd. But yeah, Mark was always he was more susceptible. I made it a point like in really middle school on to make sure that I did not speak as everyone in town spoke. I'd get in trouble and go to the principal's office, and this woman who's just like, one of the administrators there. She goes, "You ain't from around here, are you, son?" And I'm just like, "I've lived here since I was 5. I just decided not to talk like you idiots, so sorry."
Hard to believe you have trouble making friends.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it?
No, ma'am. I'm from Western Tennessee.
Goodbye.
Eastern Tennessee. Which part of Tennessee were you from?
I'd say it's about central.
Oh, I'm from Central Tennessee.
So, cram it with walnuts, ugly. It's always one of my...
Cram it with walnuts.
That's one of my favorite Simpsons insults of all time. I'll always use it because it's just like, it's so bizarre. Cram it with the walnuts, ugly. I don't know. It's just, it seems to work for me. Because it's enough, like, even if somebody hates you, they still just kind of go, "Oh, that was unique, wasn't it?" So let's get into some quick emails here, gentlemen. This one here is from Warren. I guess he wrote it in the morning because it starts out as "Morning, gentlemen." So, today has been a busy day with writing a humdinger of a review on the Australian iTunes. We got some down under. So technically, it is morning for him at this point. So that makes more sense. Also supported on Patreon, and this email is to let you know that you're one of the best podcasts around. I'm not sure why the flurry of activity today, but I'm here writing this at work. Love everything about the show and thought I'd let you know that you're well appreciated. Enjoy all your other podcasts, especially the Film Font, so hopefully that gets back on track with Adam looking... it will too, I hope so. With Adam, and looking forward to reaching the $500 a month Patreon so that we can actually watch the show as well. Thanks for the hours of entertainment, and keep up the good work. That is from Warren. Warren, thanks a lot for the email there, buddy.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
And we'll read.
So
your,
here's the deal, though. If we ever do
Australian
get to that $500 a month, the video's all just going to be Nick Cage watching a monkey do karate from Ghost Rider.
Ooh, I'm taking some of that. So we got a couple of quick Patreon updates here. Our good friend Marlon went from $1 to $5. Marlon, thanks for stepping up the game here, buddy. Showing people what's the what. I certainly enjoy it. Our good friend Winston also dropped us I believe it was a couple bucks. I think it was a $5. Yeah, it was $5 on there as well. So thank you to you.
Nice job, sir. Nice job.
And he wrote a little note in with his as well. Guys, I love the podcast. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I've had a few accidents. But the best accident have. Wait a minute, hold on. I need to learn to read. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, had a few accidents, but the best accidents have a dead... I'm reading it like he wrote it. Have a dead was fine with this podcast. So basically, he found the podcast by mistake.
Okay, good.
He was looking for something else. Hell, I don't even remember the podcast I was looking for. Well, you guys are the cat's meow, and I'm concerned. Concerned. Cat's meow. As far as I'm concerned, again, no reading for me. I should give this to Sean.
Adam, have you just had a stroke?
I may have had a tiny stroke. It's okay.
Why do we have the guy who is incapable of reading all of this stuff?
You'd think we'd have learned 130 some odd episodes in at this point that this boy can't read for nothing. Yet we still allow him to do it because I am the only one who has the access to the email. You'll never learn, Portrais. You'll never learn. Good work. Keep up all the good work. God bless. Thanks, Winston, for writing in that email.
Thank you, Winston. Sorry that Adam butchered your words.
Me no smartums. I'll tell you that much right now. If you would like to drop us a review, head on down to the iTunes, or if you want to drop us an email, heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. And like we just saw here, if you're in a country outside of the U.S. or anything, we check them randomly. But if you leave a review and stuff over on one of those, just shoot us that review and everything. We'll take a look at that and do it that way, because it goes up per country, which is odd. I wish it would just kind of all accumulate into one thing, but tis what it is.
I can't believe I just thought of this now. It seems like such low-hanging fruit. From this point forward, if you're going to send us an email, we call it an HMP mail.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Adam reads the HMP mail.
Nearly 3 years into the show, and we finally figure out what to call the email.
Bad at our jobs.
Hey, we came up with Humdinger way quicker than we could have ever imagined. When you really look back at it as quickly as that came around, I'd say we got super good credit for that because, man, oh man, it's something. But yeah, seriously, guys, thank you so much for listening and everything. And because we keep seeing the numbers go up. Every single month they're going up, they're going up, they're going up. And that's because of you guys listening, subscribing, sharing on the iTunes. It's out on the YouTubes and stuff now. So there's so much stuff that we got, and you guys are digging it and eating it up, man, and we really truly appreciate that. Now I'm gonna stop here for half a second because I'm gonna lead into something because other people have been asking me about it, but I want to say this and kind of just get it right off before we go into Spider-Man proper. As you've probably heard over the last couple weeks, we have had Audible ads, and that's cool. The problem is you guys are continuing to hear the same ad over and over and over again. I just want to let you guys know that that's not our fault. That's the fault of the people that are, kind of hosting the thing. I talked to them about it. I'm like, hey, man, we've recorded several of these things. We'd like to update it and get you a new one. So, because, honestly, I think you guys, if we're going to do ads, I want them to be diverse and different and new. But unfortunately, that's not how they work. They're like, well, maybe around the beginning of the new year, we'll see if we can have, multiple ads in there. And I'm like, gosh, that's such a pain in the neck to do. So thank you for listening to yet another ad. That's the exact same thing that you listen to. I really do wish you'd support them. I don't, if you want to fast forward over, it's A-okay with me because I'm sure that you're like,
don't, come on now. Listen, everybody knows the deal. If you have Hulu, Hulu's going to punish you by watching shows on their airwaves. By playing the same exact commercial over and over and over again. Everybody's used to it.
Maybe.
That's a good segue. Our new sponsor that we've added this week is Hulu Plus.
This is not true at all. They are not paying us a dime. You shut your mouth. And first of all, and again, I do full transparency. These guys are not paying us a boatload of money for these ads. So please don't think that like, oh my gosh, these guys are getting rich off of this. I'll be honest with you, we get more from the Patreon folks than we do from the other ads. So just to let you know.
We're going to need to cut all this out, I think.
I don't know. I just want to let people know. I just don't want them to hear the same ad over and over and just go, God, these guys are unoriginal. I'm sorry. That's all my apologies. Let's hear the ad. All right, back into it. So let's get into I have to break it down. Let's get into the trailer now for Spider-Man from 1977.
The world's favorite comic book hero, followed by 84 million readers a year. Now he comes alive. For the first time on the screen, you'll see it all. The spectacular adventures of the amazing Spider-Man.
He can do the things a spider does, climb walls and spin webs, and he's very, very strong.
You've heard about him. You've read about him. Now, you'll see him in action.
Kill him.
No challenge is too great. No enemy is too strong. The most popular, most daring, most exciting superhero in the entire world. At last, he comes alive for his most incredible adventure. Now, Spider-Man takes on a madman who's turning the streets into a siege of terror. More and more people are being mysteriously hypnotized into threatening the entire city and destroying themselves. Look up high as one man does the impossible. He uses all his fantastic spider powers to battle the most evil forces ever imagined. Astounding live-action excitement. The super adventure of everybody's favorite superhero. Spider-Man. Now, he lives.
All right, that was a trailer for Spider-Man.
That was way more trailer than this movie warrants.
Are you kidding me, man? That did all of our jobs for us, man. It just got people hype on this train.
Battling the most evil forces imaginable. Hey, they don't know my imagination.
If your imagination is of a 2-year-old.
Also, it just burrows into your ears and makes itself at home.
Oh,
Man.
boy, does it ever. Here is the IMDb plot line. When an extortionist threatens to force a multi-suicide unless a huge ransom is paid, only Peter Parker can stop him with his new powers as Spider-Man. This is starring Nicholas Hammond, David White, Michael Pataki, and several other people you probably won't recognize. Directed by E.W. Swackhammer? I don't know. Sure.
Swackhammer.
Well, my guess is you guys
Wasn't Michael Pataki like the governor of New York at some point?
Governor Michael Pataki. No, that's a different guy.
I wonder if we'll be hearing more about him later.
I know we're going to be hearing a lot about that guy a lot. So, okay, cool. So we talked about Spider-Man many a time on this episode, and this thing is like pulled straight from the comics. So I'm sure that Bruce is going to have a ton for us. What do you got for us in the Comic Connection today, Bruce?
Well, you know what? I'm doing this one for me. Because I've talked about Spider-Man a couple of times, and with Tom Holland signing a 6-movie deal, I guess I'm going to get to talk about him a few more times. So, guys, just suffer a fool here. Right. But I'm going to talk about Peter Porker, the spectacular Spider-Ham. Created by Tom DeFalco and Mark Armstrong, and he first appeared in Marvel Tales starring Peter Porker, the spectacular Spider-Ham, #1 in 1983. Now, the character existed on Larval Earth, not Marvel Earth. And this is an Earth that was populated by anthropomorphic characters featuring things like Dr. Doom, Mary Jane Water Buffalo, and J. Jonah Jackal. Do I need to say how much I loved this when I was a kid? It had Spider-Ham 2099, a.k.a. Pigwell O'Malley. It had Daredevil and Goose Rider. It was solid gold. How can you lose with a premise this awesome? Croctor Strange, Croak and Badger, and Nick Fury, Agent of Sheep. Really, the character names are probably 80% of the fun. Yeah. Hamnetto, Iron Ham, Wolverham, Green Gobbler, all of them are worthy of a tattoo, each and every one of them. So many people think they have a pretty good idea of what Spider-Ham is, but do they really know his origin story? I don't know. I don't know if you guys really know his origin story or not, so I'm going to tell it to you. Don't let the name fool you. Peter Porker was actually born a spider, and he lived in the basement lab of May Porker, a scientist who created the world's first atomic-powered hairdryer. Now, after dousing her head with water and activating the dryer, May Porker accidentally irradiated herself, and in a fit of delusion, she bit Peter the spider and gave him all the proportionate abilities of a radioactive pig. Oh my God. Upon discovering his new abilities, Peter exclaimed, "This is astounding. Am I a spider with the limitations of a pig, or a pig with the proportionate strength and agility of a spider? I've become something greater than either spider or pig. I've become a Spider-Ham." Now, May Porker's scientific genius was also transferred to Peter when she bit the spider, and that gave him the know-how to devise his web spinner gauntlets to replace his lost natural web spinning ability. One of his early misadventures led to the creation of Hulk Bunny, who wasn't just incredible, but he was incredibly cute. And then he went on to spoil Dr. Doom's plot to conquer the world with an army of sentient vegetables. Porker did manage to find work as a freelance photographer at the Daily Beagle, and later Spider-Ham accidentally travels to the Marvel Zombies universe, and in a zombie state, Spider-Ham turned into Hannibal Lecter. Now, I like the low fruit, guys. We've established this. No kidding. So I'm really enjoying everything I'm saying right now. Now, finally, he sacrificed himself to save multiple universes in the Spider-Verse storyline, only to show up in the recent Secret Wars mysteriously alive again. How well did the spectacular Spider-Ham sell back in its day? Well, I'm guessing not too good, because it was canceled after only 17 issues. And this is why we can't have nice things, America. But fortunately, reprints continued to be sold for a couple of years, or at least they continued to be sold in at least one drugstore in Hazard, Kentucky, where I was able to buy them. And that meant Spider-Ham secured a spot in the Bruce Leslie Hall of Fame. And also, I think it's fair to say that Spider-Ham has not too subtly been influential on the themes involved in the Leslie-verse. It's very important, by the way, not to confuse Spider-Ham with Spider-Pig from the Simpsons movie. Yes. That pig is actually named Harry Plopper and has no real spider powers. But more importantly, what does Spider-Ham have to do with 1977's made-for-TV classic? Not much, really. But like I said before, I'll get plenty of chances to talk about Spider-Man, so I decided to porque diem and seize the ham this episode.
I love and hate you all at the same time.
That was such a love letter, Bruce. I don't enjoy the jokes, but I do enjoy your joy from it.
I love Spider-Ham.
He is the best and worst of humanity, that Bruce Leslie. It's what we all aspire to be.
You take an existing character, make one minor change, and give him a not too clever alteration on the name. That is the recipe for the Leslieverse.
I see you back in the 1940s just chomping on a cigar in a boardroom, just going, here's what we're going to do.
We need pigs. We need spiders. We need spider pigs and pig spiders.
The kids
everywhere.
are loving spiders these days. They love pigs as well. Let's, two great tastes taste better together. Now,
Hey, lady, put them gams to some good use and go out and get me some higher pants. These are below my nipples.
Now, I can't speak to how much he's in them, but I just because out of curiosity, sick curiosity is what I should call it. I looked and I'll see you can get, there's 5 comics on the Marvel Unlimited app there that feature Spider-Pig in one way or another. Or
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham, my bad. I'm thinking Simpsons crap. You got that in my head. But so please check that out if you will.
They're probably all Spider-Verse stories if they're on the Marvel Unlimited. But if you get lucky, you can get the X-Babies 4-issue limited series, and Spider-Ham did feature prominently in that.
Why do I not surprised any of these things are things that are coming out of your mouth? All right, so the year is 1977. The world is being wowed with Star Wars, and somebody is sitting at home going, "Spider-Man's good enough. Why not watch that?" Right?
Oh man, and if there's any, some movies transcend time. Like you've already mentioned Star Wars. Mm-hmm. The intro music for Star Wars, that opening crawl, that could have been made anytime. That's classic. It fits in with The Wizard of Oz and it fits in with Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But man, there's no mistaking when this movie was made, when its intro begins, is there?
You are not kidding. And, I did a little deep dive on this movie because I think I stated last week, this is literally the thing that got me into comic books.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember or not, Bruce, because we were both really little when this came out, but
yeah.
Electric Company had Spider-Man on there.
Yeah.
And that was a huge deal.
And the Blue Beetle.
And then on top of that, in 1978, Amazing Spider-Man comes out, and it blew my mind. I could not believe it. I got special privileges that night because my parents were like, look, the kid is a nerdy nerd. Let's let him watch his nerdy show. And they suffered through it the entire, I'm sure it was 2 hours at the time. And I absolutely went bonkers for this movie.
I loved it too, man. I mean, I remember watching it. And the thing with CBS in 1978 to about 1985, there's not a whole lot of home video watching going on, so they would play this movie once a year. It wasn't like it played.
What it is?
Oh yeah, man. I'm sure I saw this in 1980, 1981. I can remember watching it in my grandparents' house, and I know that was at least post 79, but they showed this thing like once a year.
I know.
Okay, that makes sense because I don't remember being sentient at 4 years old, so that would make sense.
I don't really remember exactly when it was, but or where it was or what it was, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't this, but there was some live action Spider-Man thing that I know they did like lots of reruns of in probably the early 90s that I definitely taped on VHS when they kind of reran them and stuff. So it hovers around for a while. They'll bring it out every now and then where the USA Network's like, hey, we got to fill some time. Throw some Spider-Man crap in there. That didn't cost us 25 cents.
But I don't think there's a cable channel on Earth that wants to replay this at this point, though.
This premiered on CBS September 14th, 1977. It was the highest rated CBS production that entire year.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Well, hey, man, with a trailer like that, though, come on.
They knew what they had when they first aired it. The problem was that the powers that be at CBS didn't want to be known as the superhero network. So they got rid of this, and they got rid of Wonder Woman in the same year.
Didn't they do all the other crap, too, though, with the Hulk and all that other jazz? Wasn't that all CBS?
Well, the Hulk still ran. The Hulk was a massive success, so they let that keep going.
Daredevil,
but their other two properties, they just cut them out.
And, they still got Wonder Woman and Spider-Man, still got at least 3 solid seasons before they cut them out, though. I mean, they had them going for a little bit.
A little bit.
Ferrigno's cheap. What can we say? But, okay, so let's. This thing's hard to really start with because it.
Well, here's what I'm going to go ahead and tell you, is it kind of starts off with that most 70s intro ever. And then we see a guy, I don't quite understand why in the beginning, but we see a guy in a doctor's office, and then the doctor kind of goes into some sort of daze and walks off and leaves the blood pressure cuff on the guy's arm. And 1970s man has no idea how to undo Velcro because he has like this horrified look on his face that he's going to have to live the rest of his life with a blood pressure cuff on his arm.
No.
To his credit, Velcro's new.
And then we've also got, I guess, something going on in a courtroom, and one of the attorneys walks out, and then suddenly we see this doctor and this attorney, who are both minimum 74 years old, go rob a bank. They're setting the Guinness record for the world's oldest bank robbers.
Well, that's the thing with this entire project, is that it is literally lousy with middle-aged white guys. There are so many old white men in this movie. It's insane.
And I mean, speaking of old white guys, they've got Larry Tate as J. Jonah Jameson.
The highest point in this entire thing for me. Growing up a big Bewitched fan, I love me some Larry Tate. And honestly, for Jameson, ain't too bad.
And I also got to tell you, though. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, I prefer the quiet dignity of this J. Jonah Jameson.
But the whole time I'm looking at Nick Hammond. Is that his name? That plays Peter Parker. Nick Hammond. Who played Peter Parker? Nick Hammond?
Hammond.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I keep looking at his profile, and I can almost see just a little Dick York there. And then I started thinking how much fun this movie would have been if Dick York was Spider-Man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, can you imagine that guy in the spandex? Come on.
I think it would have been perfect.
He couldn't have been a worse physical specimen, and we'll get into that when we get to the Spider-Man.
And then
bit.
season 2, they bring in Dick Sargent, and we act like nothing happened.
Oh, I like nice.
And there also, when we first see J. Jonah Jameson, they've got like the old rabbit ears tube TV, like the 13-inch TV on a desk in there, and they're going over a story about the bank robbery. And Larry Tate there, he just exclaims out of the blue, "What are they doing? This is a newspaper story." Now, you worked in TV news there a little bit, Adam. How do you decide what's a TV story and what's a newspaper story?
Nothing.
Is there like dibs, territorial battles? Is it like Anchorman?
No, I was going to say more West Side Story, but, I mean, we can do Anchorman if you want.
I do imagine there's a lot of dancing in local news.
Well, there's some shucking and jiving, I'll tell you that much, but that's another story.
I got to tell you, when we first walk into the Daily Bugle, the placard on the front says that it was founded in 1890. I did not know that.
Oh, man, the gay 90s.
I thought that was such a, I thought that was a weird thing, too. That popped out at me, and I'm just like, huh. It was really bizarre. Yeah, founded 1890, and then there's what the weird part is, though, is that it's a close up of that, and then they go to like wide shots of the building and stuff. So it's like these cats don't even know basic filmmaking.
Well, 1890 is important because that means it started up right around the time of yellow journalism and muckraking, and maybe they're part of the reason for the Spanish-American War. Maybe this was a Hearst paper at some point.
Maybe. Well, Larry Tate's old enough to have probably been around by that point.
Joe Pulitzer
Herbert
calls
Hoover.
me Pops.
Let's get Hoover back in office.
Oh, man. And then, talking about old people, man, Peter Parker walks in. The guy who never should have graduated high school, according to Joe Quesada. Peter Parker walks in, whips out his wallet, and shows J. Jonah Jameson his AARP card when he's asking for a job to take pictures.
This guy's all of 36 years old, coming in with no job experience whatsoever.
I did the math. He's actually 28 years old when this was shooting.
Well, the guy must have lived a hard life before he got to Hollywood.
Hey, man, you woke up in the morning with, you put Jack inside of your Cheerios when you woke up in 1977. You know what I'm saying? They don't care.
I like to spend my days smoking in a suntanning booth. What can I say?
I know how to live.
But the nice thing is, even though he's a bizarrely old-looking Peter Parker, even if we just round it to 30, that's still kind of old for our first appearance of Peter Parker.
Without doubt.
But I can't figure out if he's a photographer that's moonlighting as a scientist in a nuclear lab, or if he's a nuclear scientist moonlighting as a photographer.
Well, he's trying to
some
moonlight.
Parts of this just don't add up.
He's trying to moonlight as a photographer for some, who knows why. But
because he needs $46. He got some kind of COD thing, man. Needs his $46.
That's the greatest thing. Larry Tate's just like, this kid's been busting my hump for $48 for the last 3 days. And I'm just like, how much is your life being changed by $48? Even in 1977 money, that ain't like, $1 million, man.
And imagine if his friend would have just loaned him the money, he probably never would have became Spider-Man.
Everybody's asking, he's asking no less than 3 people for loans in this movie.
Hey, I know it's our first date and all, but can I have $48? What a way to make an impression.
Every time he turns around, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
And for
it
some
is
reason,
pretty weird, too. It's pretty weird, too, that they ask him to go to the laboratory to take pictures of what's going on. Like the newspaper cares what's happening at the lab. Ridiculous.
Well, that is a newspaper story. It's not a TV story. But
Nothing to see.
For some reason, my mind had a little bit of unoccupied space watching this. So it started to wander a little bit and think about something. I don't think I've ever fully understood the details of COD and what made that work well.
It doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. I mean, especially when you get to that scene.
There were a ton of folks that didn't have that money whenever, 6 weeks later when the thing showed up.
I understand, like, the biggest thing that, like, the blackjack business probably went up like 1,000% during the COD days.
And there's got to be some kind of how much do they have to mark up their product to count for what I assume had to be about a 97% no pay rate when the thing arrived, right?
But I love the guy. He's just like, he's always very concerned. It seems like this, like he's been stiffed many a time, but yet he's still, like, that's still your job. And he still is constantly going at it. I'm like, why are you still doing what you're doing? It's so bizarre to me.
And I started to think maybe there was this cottage industry of COD delivery people. And the way it worked is like you have to pay the company for the product. It's like Avon. You've bought it from them. Now you've got to go get this cash on delivery or not only do you not make money, you've lost the money you paid for it. So he's going to try to muscle the guy a little bit for his money, The
weird thing is like they made more of a big deal of it. What was even in that? Like, I can't even remember because they made such a fuss over him actually paying for it. I forgot what was in it.
It was a capacitor for the transistor on his receiver, some kind of Radio Shack jargon there.
Yeah, they're just
I
like
guess they didn't
70s jargon.
They must not have had Radio Shacks in New York City back then. That's why you have to order things COD.
Yeah, for a city.
They did, but it was an actual shack.
And I wonder how many COD people were murdered just because folks didn't have $46 and really needed that transistor, resistor, whatever call it.
I wouldn't be wearing a lab coat with you.
That there was a lot more angry postal carriers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that when they got rid of the COD, that's when they stopped shooting up those post offices and stuff. I think that's, because we hadn't heard about one of those in years.
It's in this lab where the CGI kicks in.
Oh, CGI.
Yes.
That's a nice turn of phrase.
CGI.
The glowing spider. Now, that's the one thing. I couldn't remember anything about this movie from when I'd seen it before. But when I was watching it again, as soon as that spider started glowing, it like Pavlovian response. It just clicked off something in my brain that said, oh, yeah, I remember this distinctly. I've forgotten everything else, but I remember that glowing spider, and I remember thinking it was awesome. I think it was probably in like the opening credits when it became a series.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. And this is one of the moments that I remember also, that and the part that comes up later where he's crawling around the house.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to know where he's going.
And it also begs a couple of questions that I wouldn't have. Let's imagine this were, let's say, a competent Spider-Man movie. I wouldn't have this extra part of my brain asking these questions. But watching this one, I start to wonder, what if it hadn't been a spider? What if it had been like a mosquito? What kind of powers does Mosquito Man get?
Or a mule.
A mule. That would be awesome. No, they need to do that because I want to see this very delicate, very precise radioactive fluid inside of this container, and somehow an unattended mule winds up in there with the radiation. Nobody knows why. In that scenario, it's the mule that becomes the superhero, right? Not Peter Parker.
Doggone it, Parker. I told you about the rogue mules in this office.
Francis the Talking Mule makes a lot more sense now.
Oh, that does.
He does a lot more kicking. There's a lot more kicking involved with that.
Kicks a few field goals at the Super Bowl, things like that.
Hey, that's your Super Pro tie-in right there.
And then he kind of leaves as soon as he's bitten by the spider. I guess when he's leaving, the car with the really old bank robbers starts chasing him. It looks like. And I couldn't figure out why they were chasing Peter. Like, you know, he's running down this dead end, and we get to see that awesome wall crawling for the first time as he gets away from this car that has to be going at least 25 miles an hour as it barrels into that wall.
It's so great. When he does like the jump onto the wall and he starts crawling, that is about I mean, that really feels a lot like in the 80s when camcorders first came out and me and my friends would make movies. That's really what it feels like, man. It's awesome.
And the you got to be thinking this too, but the whole time I'm seeing this, I'm thinking that Batman and Robin did the whole wall climbing thing a lot better the way they did it.
Absolutely.
They should have just had him crawl on the ground some, or his stunt double or whatever, crawl on the ground some and flip the camera Batman style.
And you know, it's funny that you bring that up, man, because the actor Hammond who plays Peter Parker, he said very specifically that his role, he was going to play it seriously because he didn't want to have any comparisons to the Adam West Batman.
Oh, well, good choice there, I guess.
How great. How great. Like, how dare you poo-poo that thing, buddy? Like, you wouldn't even have a job if it weren't for that.
Oh, man. And of all the finished products to be uppity about, I think that this made-for-TV 70s Spider-Man is probably not one.
Oh, did you see all of my great sweaters in this movie? I think I have standing.
I can already hear him. I passed on Thornbirds and I passed on Roots because the TV property I really wanted to work on was this Spider-Man thing.
Just atrocious.
Well, I think that Nicholas Hammond even considers himself still to this day a very serious actor. You don't hear about him at conventions, right? Like, he doesn't go to those.
Can't be bothered.
Well, because he's so serious.
Oh, man. Has he done anything since Spider-Man?
Say what? Say again?
Has he done anything since Spider-Man? I mean, has he been in anything I would have seen?
The guy's all over the place. Like, I mean, he's been in soap operas for a million years. He does a lot of like TV movies and things like that. He does a lot of guest spots on, TV shows that have been on for 10 years.
CSI,
that
kind of crap.
Oh, like Love Boat?
Like a Love Boat.
Well, more like the procedural crime drama thing.
Oh, okay, like CSI Love Boat. Okay.
That's right.
Oh my God, that is actually a great idea.
Edit that out, Adam, because he just came up with $1 million idea.
I am not kidding. That is true. That's good. That's on the cutting floor right there. We've written our ticket to $1 billion.
Holy cow, that's $1 million idea, Bruce.
After Peter Parker narrowly escapes that car that's pursuing him down the dead end, that's when we got our man, the cigar-chomping cop there showing up. And I love this guy's performance all the way through the movie. This is right up my alley in terms of what I expect from a bad movie, like a bright spot in a very bad movie.
Now, I love some Larry Tate, but this dude could have been J. Jonah Jameson, too. Not just for the cigar, but just for the, just gravelly voice, just all the time. It is great.
He's kind of like
without a doubt, Captain Barbera is my favorite character in this entire movie.
I like to think of him as Bizarro Peter Falk.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But he's awesome, man. Chomping on the cigar, like the guy that almost got killed by a car. Somehow he suspects that he's the mastermind behind the bank robbery, maybe. I get the idea that this cop suspects every person he meets is guilty of the most recent crime on his mind. He just seems like that kind of cop.
Well, that brings me to one of the questions that I came up with while watching this movie, which is, why does the captain of the NYPD keep showing up to crime scenes? He's always at the crime scene.
And the cigar, it's never lit.
There's two guys in the NYPD. Is that all there is?
Well, it was the 70s. The economy wasn't so good. That whole oil embargo and stuff. They'd let people go.
He had a big kind of thing where he's just like, look, man, I ain't taking no desk job, but you're the chief of... I ain't taking no desk job.
I blame Jimmy Carter.
Also, we get the best use of spider sense ever, where Like the technique they use to show that Peter Parker has spider sense. That's about the best technique we're ever going to get.
Yeah. And, he goes back home and he starts to have like this dream of everything that happens. And he's like dreaming of that spider, kind of a spider nightmare. This was another moment that gave me a flashback because as I said before, I remembered watching this at my grandparents' house when I would say about 5 years old. And I also remember dreaming about that spider that night and watching this. It was like, I think I had the exact same dream that I saw Peter Parker have in this show. And it made me wake up very uncomfortable because big little secret here, everybody. I am deathly afraid of spiders.
Here's a question, though. How many of us dream in third person, though?
Well, I think I was dreaming of Peter Parker's dream. I don't know if I was in
I
third
wasn't talking
person.
about you, but Peter Parker, like in the thing, he's dreaming in third person. It's just
it's astral projecting, man.
Oh, that makes sense.
But yeah, that gave me flashbacks to my own spider nightmare when I saw that. But that is another one of those memorable parts of the movie, along with the glowing spider.
Spider Nightmare is also the name of my punk band.
And I guess it's around this time when he decides to go try some more crawling, and they show him crawling up and down stuff. Like he still doesn't have the costume on yet, but he's still practicing the crawling. And I was thinking that, man, if we could just get the raw blue screen footage and just watch Hammond rolling around on that blue screen, that would have to be hilarious.
Oh my gosh. This was the point where the movie took a turn for me. Where all of a sudden I was on board because, again, they blew up the Death Star not a six months ahead of this movie. And this cat is like, it is Sesame Street level just bullcrap. And it is.
Oh, man, how dare you say that about Sesame Street?
Actually, Sesame Street would be better.
The thing I love about it so much is that he doesn't seem to know where he's going. Like he's always confused of what direction he should crawl in, There's a lot of like, do I turn this way? No. I'll go this way instead.
And I love the way that with the compositing, you can tell they really weren't that concerned with detail or with perspective or with specifics, because there's one part where he's crawling along a house, and I'm telling you, he's as big as 25% of the roof on that house. It's like it's a giant Spider-Man on that house.
Yeah,
Well, not only that, the lighting is completely different from Spider-Man to the building he's crawling up.
Well, it's shot at such an angle, but he's he's climbing from like the roof of the building all the way down to the bottom, and it never his size never changes at all.
Yeah, but along this little romp, learning to crawl on walls before he has a costume, he does manage to catch what I would describe as the world's skinniest purse snatcher. Do you really need Spider-Man to stop that guy? I'm pretty sure the lady could have decked him no problem. And also, what does Spider-Man really do to catch him? He's just on the wall and he yells out, "Hey, you, stop!" And then that's kind of it. Then the rest of the folks gather around and stop him, right?
He was really, really dumbfounded. He just stood there just going, I don't believe it. I guess I ought to.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I guess I ought to stop because this man on the wall, like, why would he even know to look there?
Oh, man. And I love it. Now, just tell me, you see a guy climbing on a wall. Let's do a little suspension of disbelief. You see a guy climbing on a wall, and it does kind of surprise you, but does it really cause you to have an existential crisis like these people seem to have? Like, I figure, okay, he's got some ropes I can't see. Maybe he's got little suction cups on his hands. But these people, like, their whole understanding of the universe comes into question because they saw a man climbing on a wall.
I don't know what's real anymore.
Well, isn't this kind of the precursor to the Superman movie where every single double take you can possibly do is used in both this and the first Superman movie, the Donner Superman?
The only thing that was missing was some down-and-out guy in the gutter throwing away his bottle of booze and saying, "Never again."
It could have used it. This movie totally could have used that.
Cop dropping a donut.
Something else I just want to call out in this movie is we get to meet, I guess, our first live-action interpretation of Aunt May, and all I'm going to say is she's not like Marissa Tomei at all.
Oh, my gosh. I'm just like, this is going to, like, Spider-Man is going to turn to a life of crime and kill this woman. And, like, because I'm already, like, 2 seconds in, I'm just like, we just got to kill this lady. She is just an old battle axe, man.
Oh,
hey,
man.
Did you take your allergy medicine?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny just how much they de-age her from project to project, where, like, the next iteration 20 years from now, she's going to end up being younger than Peter, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was originally what Zendaya was cast to be, was Aunt May, and then they backed off on that.
She's 21 years old. Maybe not her.
And, he decides he's going to have to build a costume because he doesn't want people to recognize who he is for whatever reason, for reasons. And I remembered this costume being a lot better than what it is. What did you guys think about this costume?
I remember it being bad. What I didn't remember was just how weird the eyes look.
Now, what I'm going to say, in my memory, I remembered this being about as good as the Spider-Man costume on the Electric Company. But, man, you got to agree with me, Sean. The Electric Company Spider-Man had a much better costume than this guy.
Oh, without a doubt it does. Yeah.
So why couldn't CBS duplicate what the Children's Television Workshop could do?
Well, I think that you just answered your question. It was the Children's Television Workshop, man.
Couldn't they at least, rent it out? I mean, how often they could have probably used it for both projects. They're all in New York, right?
They brought a kid in to look at it at the Electric Company.
Also, the Electric Company Spider-Man had Morgan Freeman doing the voiceover work for it. So that's another positive. Man,
maybe we should have just watched the Electric Company for a couple of hours instead of this.
I'm telling you, do not do that, because after I watched this, I gave it a day. I was like, you know what? Let's see what the Electric Company's doing. It is you can watch, if you can watch more than 3 Electric Company spots in a row, you are a champion, because it is so hard to watch.
I don't know
how my parents put up with it. Like, how did they sit there in the room with me as I was watching the show? How did that happen?
They were really intrigued by Fargo, North Dakota.
They probably also just drank a lot.
My mom would take a little nap and say, "Wake me up when the Bloodhound Gang comes on." I said, "Mom, that's 3, 2, 1 contact. Get with it." But, we have another one of these. I guess it's sort of the modus operandi of the guy doing the mind controlling, that when you want to get rid of your victims, you just have them crash a car into a wall, because that happens again. There are a whole lot of cars hitting walls here. And I guess this time it's the professor, the college professor that has robbed the Union Pay Center or something like that. I can't remember what he robbed now. But I started thinking.
Union payroll.
Yeah. And I started thinking, I bet there was some kind of automotive engineer who watched this movie, and he said the same thing I did. He said, a whole lot of people are getting hurt in this movie from crashing into walls. I bet that's why airbags were invented. I think this movie inspired airbags in cars.
Thank you, Spider-Man.
You don't think it's the Swedes?
I'm sure it was a sweet guy who was watching it.
Well, hey, man, this is when we finally get our first, Mary Jane comes into the picture. Oh, wait.
Yeah, why not? Why not Mary Jane? Why not Mary Jane Water Buffalo?
It's one of those things where you're just like, what makes sense for the show? Let's we've got, at this point, 15 years worth of Spider-Man books to pull from it, Nah.
And I also love it, too, because, she's worried about her dad. Spider-Man seems to know the professor because he's seen him hanging around on campus. The guy that I assume is getting a PhD in nuclear physics knows the literature professor. But anyway, he goes over to the car where the professor's trapped under a steering column, and Spider-Man's visibly worried. And the EMT says, "Take it easy. We're doing everything we can," while he's doing absolutely nothing for this guy.
He is literally leaning on the side of the car like he's posing for a cigarette ad.
Exactly. He might as well lit up a camel right there and had a puff while he was doing it.
So good.
This is a union job, buddy. We do this Teamster style. We wait till the body decomposes, then it's easier to get out.
So bad.
And then we get to see one of the bad guys, one of the tough guys that's working for this nefarious behind the scenes evildoer. And for a minute, I could have sworn it was Bentley. Bentley from the Jeffersons, I thought was this bad guy, but on closer inspection, I don't think it was Bentley. But he kind of had the same profile.
He's got a little bit of that look to it.
But you got to agree with Dick York and Bentley. This movie gets a whole extra star rating.
We don't work in stars.
Yeah, get it right. You figure by this amount of time, you'd have known how the show works.
Yeah, well, I would be willing to compromise my rating system if I got a little bit of Bentley in some of my movies.
That's good. That's a good point.
And they take the professor to the hospital, and the first thing I can think about is hospital architecture has really come a long way since 1977.
Well, it looks like it's in someone's house, first of all.
It looks like a tenement, or like maybe they could get a housing projects to let them use it as a hospital rather than a real hospital.
We got to put one of those light thingies above it.
That's the way they used to shoot a lot of stuff in New York.
Oh, man. That's unfortunate, actually. But then we do get to meet the professor's self-help group.
Oh, so good. So good.
I'd kind of like to find one of those chapters around here if they're still around. Somebody let me know.
It's bizarre. And why these people do what they do? Nothing in this movie is explainable.
Man, and lots of formal clothing. Now, I understand when I watch stuff that's like in the 50s and the early 60s that people did dress just a little more formal than they needed to. But by 1977, look, I've been watching One Day at a Time. I know how people dress in real life in 1977, and all these people are dressed like it's still 1955.
You're burying the lead there, Bruce. You're watching it now? Currently, you're watching One Day at a Time?
Hey, I'll just say if I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, I just might linger for a bit. That Valerie Bertinelli was one hot tamale back in the 70s.
Silas, get out of the way. Daddy's got to watch his stories.
This is the lady that...
Are you about to moonlight? Are you about to moonlight and you're about to do a One Day at a Time podcast?
Hey,
the Schneider cast?
I'm thinking about it. I'm just going to take things one day at a time and see what happens.
I hate your guts.
Was that Bonnie Hunt? What was the name of the lady in One Day at a Time?
Bonnie Hunt.
Oh man, she was cute for a mom in the 70s.
I don't know where to go with that, Bruce.
Anyway, back to the self-help group.
Yeah.
So then they have like the secret part of the meeting that everybody can't go in. So they have to kick out, only the people in ties and fedoras can go into the secret part. And they kick out the lady in the sweater turtleneck for some reason wearing a short sleeve jacket over top of it. Don't quite get the functionality of that, but she gets kicked out of the important part of the meeting. And Peter goes home and builds a web shooter. What'd you think of that web shooter he built?
I love it.
At least he built one.
There's so many 70s things about this, and I can't explain why. That just feels so 70s to me.
And I know it was a big debate with the Sam Raimi movies, but I'm going to say for 1977, I would have been okay if they just gave him biological webs.
No, I've never on a biological webs. Just never.
But I want him to shoot him out of his butt like a real spider does.
Well, there you go. Well, you didn't mention that at the go. Come on.
And then they've got him practicing with his web shooter out there swinging on like the weakest tree in all of Manhattan. I was worried that tree was going to break, and I get the idea. There's no stunt double on this one. I think that really is Hammond swinging from that piece of yarn.
We'll get to that in a minute, but the stunt crew is a big part of this show. But
man, could they not find a better tree to swing on, or did the director, was he going for that effect of having a tree grown in mercy as the stuntman swings from a piece of yarn?
I'd also like you to look like a 5-year-old while you do it. Can you make that happen?
How about we just take an old tire from the junkyard and tie it to the end of that web for you?
It might as well have been.
And the strange thing is, I'm pretty sure that the sapling he was swinging on was right next to a normal human-sized tree he could have swung upon.
So where are we in the timeline here? No, he's not swinging from building to building yet, right?
No.
He's getting ready to, though. I mean, he's just made his web shooters, and I think maybe he's in his lab even working on the web shooter when he starts to pick up this strange microwave signal, and he just grabs the phone and calls up the space lab. I like to imagine I could live in a world where, a curious person in his probably largely illegal pirate lab in his apartment just picks up the phone, calls the space lab, just the quote-unquote space lab, and says, "Are you guys doing any experiments today?" "No? Okay, just checking," and hang up. They don't ask the guy who he is. They don't ask who wants to know. They don't ask for any details. They're like, no, well, let's see. Nope, it's not Wednesday. We only do stuff on Wednesdays.
Yeah. What do you want to know? Any specifics? You want to know the code for the door to get in? What kind of information you need from us here? I'm willing to give you anything.
One of my notes here is that the makers of this movie don't understand how computers, microwaves, or people work.
Yeah, exactly. And I also like it. He finally takes some staged photos to sell to Larry Tate there. And Larry Tate asks him about the costume because he's finally broken out this absurd looking costume and taken black and white photos, by the way. Color film existed in the 70s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, newspapers had color pictures by then, I would hope. Maybe they didn't. But that as bad as the costume looks, it looks even worse in black and white in those pictures. And I also like the way he explains the costume because Larry Tate asks, what's Spider-Man wearing here? And he goes, oh, you know, it's the kind of things like you wear when you go to the gym. Tell me, Sean, please tell me you have like one of those more full body spandex suits that are all like green that you wear to the gym.
I do. And you know, have you ever seen that movie where Seth Green wears the sunglasses that are goggles? I wear those too.
I love it, man. But I like that explanation. You know, it's like what people wear to the gym so they can move around.
That's a guy who's really tried to justify a lot of stuff. No, guys, I think it looks pretty boss. You say it looks stupid. I'm saying it looks
sure
amazing.
Seems to know what he's doing.
And how come the Spider-Man always lets you get pictures of him, Parker? Because I believe in him. It's like all of a sudden it's Tinkerbell.
Line of the thing
He's
where
Santa.
he's Santa Claus, and I'm like, what kind of bull is this?
And then I guess he's starting to figure out where that microwave is coming from. He's going to go investigate, and that's where we get some swinging from the webs on the roof. And then he gets to the rooftop and has the sneezing fit, this aforementioned sneezing fit that I think deserves a lot of talk because normally that sort of thing isn't in a movie unless it's going to be important later in the movie. But how many times? Like 7 times does he mention his allergy pills? We get this sneezing fit on the roof, and then I'm expecting him to like be hiding near the climax and he starts sneezing, and that's how he gets found out or discovered. But there's no payoff, is there, guys? Did I miss something?
Let's just
It's
make
like
him a
I
big
told you at the
wuss.
top of the show, man. I really think that they used the take where the stuntman was sneezing, and they were like, "Crap." And so
And they
let's
even did that.
shoehorn it in later.
They even did the AVR where he said, "Oh, I forgot my allergy pills." You know, they had that over him as he's sneezing. And then, of course, he runs into what are probably one of my top 25 groups of villains all time, guys with kendo sticks. Like the 3 guys with the kendo sticks are awesome supervillains.
Why are kung fu guys hanging out with a hypnotist?
They never even address that at all, do they?
At all.
And of all the, I mean, come on. We've seen a lot of the old canon pictures, the ninja-themed pictures.
Yeah.
We know that if you come from Asia and you want to fight, you've got katanas and shurikens, and you got those little things that make your hands look like claws. You got all kinds of cool stuff. Why the kendo sticks?
Hey,
Is that all that was on their budget?
This is blunt, and it's not going to cut nobody. Why not?
I mean, oh, heaven help me. I'm not even a superhero, and I wouldn't be that scared of 3 people that wanted to spank me with bamboo.
It's silly. Let's talk real quick.
There's a whole lot of use of Spider-Man going down on the ground with his hands and mule kicking these guys.
Oh, and I love it when they attack him. His first defense to show off the awesome use of his power is he jumps on the wall like 2 feet off the ground. He doesn't even jump on the ceiling. He just jumps up slightly higher than a normal person could jump.
I will give this movie this. It is not the hallway fight scene from Daredevil Netflix.
They had nowhere to go but up with this one. You got to remember, Spider-Man's still filling out his powers here. But how about that ultra slow speed web slinging that we get, and the way they do the effect on the web netting, taking down the 3 guys with kendo sticks?
The web netting is
so
hilarious.
It looks like flocking from a Christmas tree.
That very well could have been what it was. And the way it kind of puffs up in the air and lands, like there's no shooting. He has a web shooter, but it's clearly passively going out. Like the air is catching it. It's got a little arc before it lands on him.
I know, it's so good.
It fell on me. I really wanted him to just go, that'll hold him.
And then after this, when he goes back home to rub Aunt May's feet or whatever he does back in that apartment that they live in, I love it that on the news we get a little shout out to the Shah of Iran. You know, it's been a long time since I've thought about the Shah of Iran, way back before the Ayatollah took power. So, you know, Here's to you, 1977.
Thanks for the history lesson movie. Now,
and they did mention that he was really rich, so that helps too.
That's true. Now, we've yet to discuss, though, how Spider-Man walks and gets around. This is one of the most bizarre things I've ever...
There is a lot of crouching happening, for sure.
It's all just like... Now, for those of you who haven't seen it and are not like driving a car, here's what I want you to do. You can interact and you can do this yourself. I want you to stand up. Now, put your feet slightly past your shoulders. Little wide stance there. Crouch down a little bit. Stick out your butt, okay? Then I want you to put your arms at 45-degree angles, and I want you to kind of walk around like a chicken. And just try to, and pretend like you're lost and you can't find your car keys or something. That's what Spider-Man looks like while he's walking and ducking and shucking and jiving all around. He looks like an idiot. And
I was going to say he's assuming kind of the same posture that John Voight uses in the movie Holes when he's walking around as Mr. Sir.
He looks like he needs to go and take a poop in the woods or something. I don't know what's going on with this guy.
This movie could use a lot more Stanley Yelnats for sure.
And then, Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker goes back to the self-help group and volunteers to get the little pin put on him and goes into the brainwashing chamber where he gets his own Reggie Jackson Kill the Queen stimulus just so I can shoehorn in another Enrico Palazzo 2 weeks in a row.
It's Enrico Palazzo.
But he does get his own Manchurian Candidate treatment there.
And
then later he goes back for like the third time. He just can't stay away from this place. I'm not sure how much more he really has to learn, but he goes back and he fights the Kendo stick guys again. But this time, some people use a stepwise fashion. Like you start off with the Kendo stick, then maybe you go to the nunchucks, then maybe you go to the sword. These guys have two options, Kendo stick or flamethrower. Like there's no in between with these guys.
Well, we clearly have to turn it to 11.
And somehow the flamethrower sprains his elbow. Like it doesn't quite break his arm, but he does have to wear a sling occasionally.
And this is where he swings from building to building, right?
Yeah, and then the flamethrower, I guess, burns through his web and he falls on a gargoyle and sprains his elbow.
Because the reason why I want to bring this up is, when I was a kid, I was just amazed at the special effects of this. But watching it as an adult now, that is very, very scary to watch because that they didn't have like all of the safety equipment that a person needs. They literally had a dude swing from one building to another building. And I had to look into it because I was like, how did they how did this happen? So what they did was they literally had a stuntman swing from one building to the next. They shot it one time and with multiple cameras so that they could use it again and again later. Because the idea was, we got that shot. We can use it for the rest of the season, thinking that they would just keep making these movies over and over and over again and just keep reusing that scene. Here is the problem, is that when the producers were asked about it, they said, we did it one time because it was so expensive and because it's dangerous. So, like, the danger was secondary to how expensive it was to have a guy swing from one building to the next. That's scary.
Man, it was the 70s. I'm sure they had a waterbed that he could land on if he fell.
That was expensive.
Get some Jackie Chan cardboard boxes over here, man. You're going to be fine.
And then I had a lot of fun when Spidey tries to get a cab. Spidey tries to get a cab, and the cab driver, the first thing he notices is that there's no pockets in that costume. So he's not going to give him a ride.
But I want to point this out. Spider-Man does have a wallet on him. If you look an hour, 15 minutes in here, there's a shot where you can see his left butt cheek clearly has a wallet in his back. There ain't no pocket there, but there's clearly an outline of a wallet.
Oh, man. And since he can't get a ride in the cab, by the way, that cab driver was way too charismatic for this movie. Like this guy could have been doing something worthwhile in 1977. I like that guy.
I don't have to take you.
I could have seen him as a supporting character on Sanford and Son. He was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But he ends up riding, speaking of Sanford and Son, he ends up riding home in the back of a garbage truck. I thought that was kind of nice.
That was a neat idea to show everybody that he's just a regular dude like you.
Yeah, because regular dudes like us always ride in the back of garbage trucks.
That's my
Look,
every
you live the
Thursday.
life you're going to live. I'll live mine.
I'll tell you, as long as I've got my Razor scooter, I'm never riding in a garbage truck.
But he's always running around just holding his hand like a 3-year-old, just going, "Ooh, I got an ouchie, it hurts."
I know, and like I said, it's not exactly broke. I mean, maybe he sprained his elbow or something, but it heals up miraculously quick when he needs it to later in the movie.
Well, they don't even explain that part either. Like, there's no mention of like, well, now that you've been bit by this radioactive spider, it seems like your health seems to get better faster. There's none of that.
Radioactive spiders do nothing for allergies, though. They have established that.
Maybe he's allergic to just spiders now. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Now, I want to talk about the master plan that this evil guy who's controlling people's minds has. You know, the idea is he could potentially just rob banks for all eternity, you know, but instead of robbing banks, he's got this plan where he's going to have 10 people commit suicide, one of whom is Peter Parker, who's been programmed to jump off the Empire State Building. And the only way to stop this 10 suicides in New York, a city of well over 100,000 people, right?
Well, I'd say it's at least that.
And he wants $50 million. And I know for a fact that there are plenty of governments that will kill a man for $150. So there's no way they're shelling out $50 million to save 10 random people's life in New York.
Nah, let him jump. Who cares?
And not only that, he's going to have him put it in a seaplane that's out in the East River or something like that, or the Hudson Bay, wherever it is. And do you see that little plane they have?
That thing is so tiny.
Great.
That is not a transatlantic plane. I don't know what his master plan is. I guess he's going to escape to Delaware. Maybe New York doesn't have.
He's gonna land in Providence.
We're flying down to the Hamptons.
Oh, we'll never find him now. He's got to be at least 30 miles away in that plane.
He's got to stop for gas. Don't worry.
Well, my question about this is: are we supposed to believe that old man who would be deathly afraid of computers in real life, built this program for hypnosis? Like, did he steal it? Like, where did it come from?
Clearly, it belonged to the guys with the Kendo sticks, and somehow he managed to get control of them so he could use it.
You let me use this. I'll let you beat on Spider-Mans with Kendo sticks. You want to? That sounds like a good trade to you.
And you know, Captain Cigar Chomp goes ahead and arrests the people on the plane because Peter calls and says,
Barbera.
Yeah.
Captain Barbera.
Well, Peter's called him up and said, I figured out how to stop it. Then all of a sudden, Peter's lapel pin starts buzzing, and he has to go off to get the gun under third base or whatever. And and while he's up on the Empire State Building, preparing to climb and jump off of it, like that spike just perfectly gets his lapel pin to take it off his jacket. And that's all it takes to solve the problem.
And then your hypnosis is gone. I laughed so hard at that. Oh, my gosh. It was amazing.
And then he immediately rushes to the building and tears down the little antenna with the dishes on it that's transmitting the sequel. And that's the end of the movie, which begs the question. He's already fought these Kendo stick guys a couple of times. He's trying to figure out how to scramble the signal, but they don't explain how he learned where that antenna was. I have to assume he always knew where it was. And he just now realized tearing down the antenna is probably easier than jamming the signal, right?
There's a whole tenement full of people that couldn't watch their soaps on account of this jerk pulled down the satellite dishes.
Like, I don't see any moment where some key was figured out. I don't see any kind of eureka moment where he figured out the one weakness of the bad guy. This looks like I could have taken this bad guy out pretty easy. I've broken a few antennas in my day.
All I had to do was climb up and take it down? Oh, this could have all been saved by me not being an idiot.
And then the most heartwarming part of this whole movie is when the Kendo stick guys show up, and now they're Spidey's friend. They're not mind controlled anymore. They're his friends now, and they let him into the room where what's his name has somehow brainwashed himself. When I guess it reversed the signal when he broke the antenna, so now it's brainwashed this guy.
Congratulations, you just played yourself.
As dumb as it is, there's something about that I like, though, that it was just like it sent him into his own little crazy stupor. That's cool.
And we even get Captain Barbera and J. Jonah Jameson both getting to be jerks at the end of the movie where Barbera says, we couldn't have done this without Spider-Man. And then Larry Tate says, no, it was you hardworking police that did this. And he says, well, I can't stop you if that's what you want to print in your papers. Let's take a picture. I love just how quick that goes down.
Well, also the weirdest line in this entire movie happens in this scene where Peter Parker's like, you guys really did an amazing job. And Barbera turns to him and he goes, never mind the cauliflower.
I love that.
Never mind the cauliflower?
That's one I'm going to have to use sometime.
Is that a phrase? No one's ever said that before, right?
Goodbye, prickly pear. Hello, cauliflower.
Don't you
Never
dare.
mind the cauliflower.
What a bizarre thing to do. But it kind of ends off there into the sunset.
And for some reason, I felt like this movie should have ended with like the fake Mary Jane and Peter Parker jumping up in the air in a freeze frame. Like that didn't happen, but it seems like it would have fit in.
But
if they wanted to, like, it's one of the things that it always bothered me as an adult watching these old shows is that, these guys want to keep going. Like, they want you to keep watching these shows. So why didn't they end them like they ended comic books where, oh, hey, there's a big cliffhanger. You better ask for another one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it could have been good. Even do the Batman ending where it's something like, will Spider-Man ever get credit for fighting that crime? Will this fake Mary Jane ever reconcile with her father? Will Peter find his allergy pills? Tune in next week.
I like how he hands Larry Tate like a manila envelope full of stuff, and he just goes, hey, what's this? A guy who's a photographer handed you a giant thing full of, what do you figure's inside of that, you jackass?
It's drugs.
It's a TV dinner.
It's a payoff is what it is. Oh, look, they're pictures. What do you figure? And he's got the picture with the kendo cats in there, and they're all smiling. That would just pretty much say, hey, guess what? Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, rather, is guilty.
I would have liked it if he looked and said, hey, wait a minute. You're one of the kendo stick guys, aren't you, Parker? I'm on to you.
I'm putting this on front page.
Now, do the kendo... I don't remember this series very well. And, Sean, I don't know if you remember it or not, but I really hope that the kendo stick guys showed up at least every third episode for the complete run.
I would be surprised if they don't show up in the Japanese one, because there's one that's Japanese and there's the other one where the clones, that whole Spider-Man clones thing starts in the TV show.
Oh, man, I got to check that one out.
Well, don't worry.
I'd be surprised by that.
Don't worry. That's why we have this show, to put ourselves through this torturous pain. But it's not torture.
Get ready for bum, 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 bum.
All you got to do is just like the entire thing. It's just like every wah-wah pedal in 1977 was working on this movie.
I was waiting for Spider-Man meets Starsky and Hutch.
It's pretty terrible. Well, it's that time of the show, everybody, where we have to find out how Spider-Man from 1977 relates back to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Oh. Sup, nerds? Can you name the one person who was in the Adam West Batman, the 80s TV show Automan, and Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins? What if I were to tell you that same actor is also in the original Star Trek, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and BJ and the Bear? That dude's name is Michael Pataki. And unfortunately, he died of cancer in 2010, which sucks because you can imagine the stories that guy must have had. He worked on Charlie's Angels, Star Trek The Next Generation, and Easy Rider. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I want that guy to talk to me. Michael Pataki worked right up to the end in a movie called Trim, which is exactly what it sounds like. And weirdly, stars Bruce Dern. He was also the voice of George Liquor on the Ren and Stimpy show, who just so happened to be my favorite character on Ren and Stimpy. How the hell are we learning about this guy just now? He's in Halloween 4, for God's sake. That's the one where they get the franchise back on track, only to ruin it with the next one. Man, how awesome is Michael Pataki? He plays the role of Captain Barbera in The Amazing Spider-Man, and he seems to be the only actor in the entire show that seems to be having fun with what he's given. And every time he's on screen, Amazing Spider-Man gets a little bit better. Not a lot better, mind you, but a bit. And if this show got a longer run, it's not hard to see there would have been an expanded role for this guy, kind of like what Raimi did with J.K. Simmons in his version of Spider-Man. But if that weren't enough, Michael Pataki's most famous role was as Nikolai Koloff in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
Who, if you remember Rocky IV at all, he plays the male Russian handler to Lundgren's Drago. There's a press conference where the American journalists are questioning Drago because he's just killed Apollo in the ring. And there's this really great exchange that happens between Nikolai Koloff and Paulie. And it goes like this. It starts off with Nikolai Koloff. He goes, "It's all lies and fake propaganda to support this antagonistic and violent government." And then Paulie goes, "Violent? Hey, we don't keep people behind a wall with machine guns." "Who are you?" "Who am I? I'm the unsilent majority, big mouth." That's some awesome Stallone writing right there. And you know it's Stallone specifically because there's that tinge of jingoistic Rambo level 80s-ness. So good, so good. There's some great stories on the set of Rocky IV also. Stallone was getting tired of people saying the fights were unrealistic in the Rocky movies, so Stallone insisted that he and Lundgren actually hit each other until Lundgren hit him so hard in the chest that his heart slammed against his breastbone and began swelling, landing him in intensive care for 4 days. Awesome idea, Stallone. According to Stallone, Dolph Lundgren and Carl Weathers didn't like each other and got into an altercation during filming. Lundgren threw Weathers across the ring before it was broken up. Point for Lundgren. Seeing as Stallone still works with Lundgren, I think we can all see which side Stallone takes. 2 points for Lundgren. But the best story, no doubt, is Paulie's robot. That robot in Rocky IV.
Dear God.
Created by International Robotics, Inc. in New York City. And it was actually a member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, gosh.
Amazingly. And toured with James Brown in the 80s.
Sounds about right.
Living in America.
In an interview with Ain't It Cool News, Stallone said he first saw the robot at a party and thought it was funny, so he decided to include it in Rocky IV so that, and I'm quoting here, audiences could get a look at it. Some weeks it is such a joy to have the Stallone connection, and this week is definitely one of them. So there you have it, HMPers. Michael Pataki is this week's Stallone connection. Now, weird Asian guys that hang out with middle-aged hypnotists, let's review this movie and give it the Dick Grayson it so richly deserves.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, so good. All right. So let's get down to it because this is going to be an interesting one. Here on HMP, we have our patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to find out what exactly that is and where everything lies, why don't you head on down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. And hey, man, while you're there, go ahead and hit that like button there, and you can follow all of our wild and crazy, wacky adventures. So let's start with you, Bruce. Where does Spider-Man from 1977 fall on the patented Robin rating system for you, sir?
This movie was worse than I remembered, and I remembered it being pretty bad. So, and I got to say, I hate hyperbole. I think hyperbole is like the worst thing ever. It's worse than cancer and the plague mixed together. But this Spider-Man costume made me physically ill. I just couldn't stand to look at those eyes in particular. It also surprises me that this was the highest rated thing on CBS the year it was released. And I got to say, television's definitely come a long way since then. So I'm going to give this a Jason Todd.
Wow, Jason Todd. All right. I think we're gonna hear something different on the other side here. Keenan, what do you got?
Man, I loved this movie when I was a child. I love this movie as an adult. There is something so terrible about this movie that I love it so much. How many times did you guys laugh out loud watching this movie?
Tons.
Oh man, mostly at my own jokes.
It happened so much for me watching this movie that it was an absolute joy for me to watch it. So I'm giving it a Tim Drake, man. I love this movie.
Oh gosh, this is your Nick Fury. This is your David Hasselhoff Nick Fury.
It really is, man, because there's something about it where it really feels like, you know, those kids that made the Indiana Jones movie on a camcorder?
Yeah.
It really feels like that to me, but it was professionals making it. It's so good.
Oh, man. I think it was. I prefer Doctor Strange, the old Doctor Strange. I prefer those Incredible Hulk movies.
I love all of those things too, though. I love all of those as well.
Okay. I'll grant you that.
All right. Down to me. This movie is, like we said, this movie's bad. I think both of you gentlemen have very good arguments either way, to be quite honest, because it is horrible. It is laughable. The effects are terrible. The acting is subpar at best, save for the police chief and Larry Tate. Outside of that, man, this thing is just it's longer. God, it's longer than it should be. This thing, if it were 45 minutes, it'd be even better, because there's a lot of just crappy lull stuff in here. Yet at the same time, gosh, I did have when it's kicking on all cylinders. And for that, I got to go Damian Wayne. So I don't think it's a great time, but if you have a lot of people over and really want to watch a bad movie that you can just laugh at, this will certainly do it. That's for sure.
You know, this is one of those movies you can watch with the sound off and have it in the background, and people will literally just start staring at it. I'm like, what are we watching?
They'd look over and just go, what in the what? Is it Spider-Man? Why does it look so crappy?
Oh, I love it so much.
Good stuff.
Oh, man. I prefer Reb Brown.
Oh, let's not. Come on now.
You know, we really had a missed opportunity here as children, because if this would have fired on all cylinders, we could have probably gotten an Avengers in the late 70s, early 80s, and it would have been so amazingly bad.
Well,
there's a trailer out there. We posted it up on the Facebook page a good while back. Somebody edited together all these TV movies and stuff and made an Avengers trailer for all that crap.
Bill Bixby had everything set to do a movie where Spider-Man and the Hulk meet each other, with Hammond playing Spider-Man, but because Lou Ferrigno was making that Hercules in Space movie or whatever, they couldn't do it. So when Ferrigno was finally freed up, Hammond lost interest, so they did the Thor thing.
And we all know how well that turned out.
What's that?
I said we all know how well that turned out. So.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
It was great. So next week we've got a special episode because it's programmed, guess what, by the people who support us on Patreon. So at patreon.com/HMP, those who have donated to us, be it at the dollar level and on up, they get to actually vote for what we watch. And so this time we had a lot of different selections. No one would have figured it would have come this way, but the winner is going to be the original Sin City. So we're going to be reviewing that next week. We did Sin City: A Dame to Kill For when that came out. That was all the way back, and get this, episode 12. So,
wow, man. Well, I'm looking forward to a little more Michael Clark Duncan. Did I get his name in the right order?
Yes, good job. Look at you.
I always mess up with that one. But I'm looking forward to a little bit more of him because, he died and wasn't in the sequel, but he's going to be in this one.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that next week. So, and remember, you can go ahead and vote on that. And if you go to that patreon.com/HMP, we'll still have it for the month of December because December is actually full up with a good amount of stuff. But you guys will still get one, and you're going to get one pretty early in the month as opposed to the end of the month because of our year-end stuff. So, watch your inboxes for all that kind of good stuff because it'll happen quick. That is it, everybody. Until next week, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Well, Heroes and Villains just put up an episode about Nova, the human rocket. So you can go check out a little Richard Rider action there. And then Chubby Wizard, it should be landing not too long after this episode lands. And we're going to talk a little bit about Legends of Tomorrow, going back to the Old West, seeing Jonah Hex again. Nice. And, of course, all the comics that came out this week.
Very good, sir. Mr. Keenan.
At Hero Movie Sean on Twitter and the Preacher Podcasts.
Yeah, it's coming up soon, man. It's going to be here faster than we realize, I think, with that one. But super excited about that. And, of course, Here Movie Podcast, HereMoviePodcast.com, iTunes, Stitcher, you know all the places. And the Film Find is coming back. I've watched a couple of movies, and we, especially one of them, I really feel the need to talk about. And I'll tell you guys this. Go see Arrival. It is worth your money. For adult sci-fi stuff, it is quite good. But to hear more about that, filmfind.com. Okay, so that is it, everybody. Again, join us next week when we are talking about Sin City. For Bruce Leslie, Sean Keenan, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Eva.